Think about the last time you saw a CEO, a country director, or a high-level executive speak on video. Chances are they were standing behind a podium. Maybe they were cutting a ribbon at a new facility. Or maybe they were sitting in a perfectly lit office reading a carefully crafted, sanitized statement right off a teleprompter. Now let me ask you this. How did it make you feel? Did you feel inspired? Did you feel a connection? Did you feel anything at all? Or did your brain immediately told you this is just PR and tuned the whole thing right off? If that's your reaction, you're not alone, and the data confirms it. Welcome back to the Narrative Engineer. Whether you are a chief communications officer managing a brand, a marketing director trying to break through the noise, or a media practitioner building content on the front lines, you are in the right place. Here, we talk about how to build deep, durable trust for organizations doing important work in a complex world. Today, we're talking about what we call the end of the passive executive and why your surgically designed corporate identity might no longer be enough to give your brand what it needs to connect with audiences. For decades, organizations operated under a strict set of rules. The brand was the shield, the logo was the hero, and the executives, they were kept safely behind the curtain, only brought out for highly controlled, highly scripted moments. But as we discussed in earlier episodes, the public's relationship to brands and to media in general has fundamentally changed. What we are witnessing is the gradual erosion of faith in faceless institutions. When an organization speaks only through polished press releases, sanitized speeches at events, for example, or videos of leaders shaking hands at galas, the public codes it as self-serving. It looks like advertisement, and increasingly they switch off. We call this the passive executive model. And if you are a communications professional listening to this, you know exactly the grind I'm talking about. You spend days, sometimes weeks, writing a statement for your leader. It gets passed through several offices and directors. It gets heavily rewrites at different stages. Wordsmithing goes on seemingly forever. By the time your leader actually reads it on camera or in front of an audience, all the humanity has been squeezed out of it. Emotions, both negative and positive, have been reduced to technocratic word salads. You end up reporting on activities and projects instead of connecting with people, and your audience tunes out. So what happened there? Well, your team fell straight into what we call the process trap. You don't have to take my word for it. Let's look at the actual data. Every year, an organization called Edelman releases what it calls the Trust Barometer. It's a massive global study, now in its 26th edition, that measures how much the public trusts different groups: governments, the media, businesses, and NGOs. The findings are striking and directly relevant to every communications professional in this space. According to the 2025 Edelman Trust Barometer report, 7 in 10 people now believe that government officials, business leaders, and journalists deliberately mislead them. Lack of faith in business leaders has increased by 21% since 2021. This is a trust freefall, and yet, here's the paradox at the core of this episode. There is still a specific type of leader the public trusts. The same data distinguishes between CEOs as an abstract and general category and my CEO, the specific leader of the organization where someone works or whom they follow directly. Here's a key finding. My CEO is trusted by 69% of employees versus only 51% trust in CEOs generally. That 18-point gap is the entire argument. The public does not trust the title, they trust the person. Now, this year, the 2026 edition of the Edelman Trust Barometer, it was released just a few months ago, adds another layer. My employer is now trusted by 78% of respondents, 14 points ahead of business generally, and 25 points ahead of government. And 73% of respondents say they expect their CEO to lead on societal issues, not just financial ones. So let me be very precise about what this data is telling us. Broad institutional trust is collapsing, but personal, direct, human leadership is gaining ground. That gap between the logo and the human is where the opportunities are. To understand why the executive voice matters so much right now, we have to look at how people are actually consuming information today, and more importantly, what they consider valuable. Right now, the internet and social media have made straight news, reporting on the who, what, when, and where, instantaneous and free. Because breaking news can be duplicated by anyone with a smartphone, it has lost its unique value as a standalone product. The Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism tracks this exact shift every year in their digital news report, one of the most comprehensive studies of global media consumption. Now, according to the 2025 edition of their digital news report, nearly 4 in 10 people across 48 countries now regularly avoid the news, up from 25% in 2017, and the joint highest figure ever recorded. Younger audiences in particular say the news feels confusing, overwhelming, and disconnected from their lives. I want you to think carefully about why this is happening. As the sheer volume of daily information grows, audiences are overwhelmed. The traditional news cycle constantly throws the what at you. It seems to feel exhausting to an increasingly large proportion of the public. You see, people no longer really lack facts or data. No, what people lack today is meaning. They are not disengaging because they are uninformed. They are disengaging because they are overinformed and underinterpreted. They are drowning in data and starving for context. They are bombarded with media telling them what is happening, but they don't have the tools to make sense of it all. So what we are seeing more and more is that when people turn off the news, they do not sit in silence. They put on their headphones or turn on a podcast or visit the YouTube page of their favorite news commentator or streamer because they are looking for someone to explain the chaos to them. This is where your organization has the opportunity to pivot. Giving meaning to the news is increasingly popular. The meaning business, which explains why it matters and how it affects you, is a service that audiences perceive as having enormous value. And it is a service that requires exactly what your organization already have: time, resources, and deep specialized knowledge. This involves synthesizing events, predicting consequences, and adding expert context, all of which require time, resources, and specialized knowledge. And guess who has that specialized knowledge? You do. Your team does. Your leaders do. So let's make this concrete. If you work in an NGO focused on food security, for example, your audience does not just want a video listing how many meals you delivered that month. That is raw data. Instead, they want your leader to look at the current headlines and explain why the global supply chain is broken, for example. They want your experts to synthesize events and predict what happens on the ground. They want to feel like they understand, not just what happened, but what it means. If you work in global health, people want your experts to contextualize a new outbreak or a medical breakthrough. They want to understand what it means for their everyday lives. They want the kind of analysis that used to require a subscription to a specialized journal. delivered clearly and directly by a figure that they can trust. When your leader stops acting like a corporate spokesperson and starts acting like a sense maker or someone that can give meaning to events, everything shifts. You stop giving audiences an advertisement. You start offering a highly valuable service, and when you do that, you build a level of trust and loyalty that a traditional PR campaign could never manufacture. Now, I want to be direct with those of you who need to make a business case for this internally, because trust and authenticity can sound soft to a board or an executive committee who wants to see numbers. 60% of decision makers say they are willing to pay a premium to work with organizations that produce strong thought leadership content, and 75% of executives say they have explored a product or service they were not previously considering after engaging with compelling thought leadership from an organization's leader. Think about what this means for an NGO trying to attract a major donor, for a public agency trying to influence a policymaker, for an enterprise trying to close a partnership. It means that when your leader is visible, credible, and analytically compelling, doors open that your logo alone cannot open. 52% of decision makers and 54% of C-suite executives say they spend 1 hour or more per week consuming thought leadership content, looking for it and seeking it out. Your potential stakeholders are already actively searching for expert voices. The question is whether yours is one of them. So, how do we get leaders out from behind the podium? How do we build that human connection without it turning into a walking advertisement? This is, in some ways, a new mandate for modern organizations. If you want to thrive beyond the corporate image, you have to deploy the human voice, your voice, and increasingly the data points to one format above all others as the most effective vehicle for the executive voice. According to the IAB podcast research, podcast hosts are perceived as 64% more trustworthy, 86% more authentic, and 89% more influential than other types of influencers. And 83% of senior executives listened to a podcast in the past week, with 55% citing the primary reason as wanting to learn something new. That last point is critical. Your key stakeholders, donors, policymakers, partners, senior peers, are already part of your podcast audience. The format is not just trusted by the general public. It is the preferred format of the exact decision makers you're trying to reach. A podcast or long-form video series built around your leader's voice is not a content experiment. It is the most direct, highest trust, scalable channel available to you right now. Before we wrap up today, I want to hear directly from you. If you are a communications professional, a marketer, or a leader watching this right now, drop a comment below or send me a message. Has your organization started podcasting yet? Or have you tried something similar to get your leader's unscripted voice out into the world? What were the roadblocks? Was it difficult to get your executives to drop the script? What arguments finally moved the needle internally? Let's start a conversation about it, because we are all navigating this shift together. And the most useful insights from this show come directly from people doing this work in the field, in the real world, such as yourself. Now, identifying the need for an executive voice is only step one. Actually executing it without it turning into a boring, self-serving promo is a completely different challenge. How do you set it up? How do you keep the conversation on track? How do you turn a single 45-minute conversation into a robust digital engine that drives real influence across platforms? We're going to break down the exact step-by-step blueprint for building that platform in our next episode. Until then, if you suspect your organization is trapped in corporate speak, or if you want to measure exactly how much trust your communications might be generating for your organization, we can help you diagnose the friction. Go to the link in the description or visit our website to download our free 10-point institutional brand audit. It is a high-speed diagnostic tool built specifically to help organizations identify where their message is breaking down. If you found this episode useful, please hit the usual buttons: like, comment, subscribe, notify, and so forth. Every bit really helps growing this community. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.